Ciao a tutti, it's me, Babza Jr. If you watched my last video, you might have heard me mention something about this one, and how I was inspired by my husband and his challenge runner peeps. So, just to give you a bit of background, last year my husband JK Leeds took part in a one-shot contest created by this guy. And at the time, I wondered why these people would put themselves through that. Fast forward to a year later, and I started wondering if I could also one-shot the bosses of Dark Souls 1. So I went to my husband and he went pretty much like this. Husband?
Yes?
I want to try the one-shot challenge in Dark Souls 1.
Why?
Because I thought it'd be fun.
Why would you do this to our family?
So that was that, and here we are. Can a strong independent Italian woman one-shot every boss in Dark Souls 1? Before we start, it's worth mentioning that I'm going to do this a little differently than the guys did in the contest. I'm just going to focus on trying to one-shot every boss in the game. Not worrying about mini-bosses and NPCs, because this is literally the first challenge run I've ever done, and it will probably be tough enough as it is. I won't be using any glitches apart from source or item duping to reduce farming time, otherwise completing this run will probably take me up to my son's 18th birthday. The important things first, my character name, so I chose to go with a very appropriate one-shot Babs. Then we move on to the class, and I chose Pyromancer because I've watched enough of my husband's and the other Soul Challenge runners one-shot videos to know this will help me in the long run. I choose the Master Key as the gift because, let's face it, who chooses something else when starting a DS1 run? As always, we start in a cell where we get thrown a key to get out. Oh, hey Lemon! Oh dear, it looks like Lemon here had a rough night out on the town with the lads. He gives me his head of the dog drink, and we then go butcher this hollow. The challenge begins after we leave the asylum, because leveling up or upgrading is not possible until we do this. I decide to take on the asylum demon normally, with an axe and fireballs. Goodbye, asylum demon. With the asylum demon gone, we can take Dodo Airlines and make our way to Filing Shrine. I wanted to try use some different weapons than others had used, so I start by dropping through the catacombs to get the Great Scythe, because I am the Scythe waifu, of course. This naturally was an area that you would explore much later in the game, so needless to say, it was quite a challenge, but I got it done. Getting back out of the catacombs was tough, but I made it and I started feeling the regret slowly creeping in. Next, I ran through Valley of Drakes, grabbing the soul of a proud knight on the way, and then I climbed this ladder to grab the red tearstone ring. For those who don't know, this ring boosts your damage by 50% when you're under 20% health, and it's an essential item for any one-shot run. It's time to make our way up to Andre, one of my favourite NPCs ever. We pop some souls and buy some arrows to do this. The classic soul dupe glitch, which I do to start leveling up as we need some more stats to wield the scythe and do damage. As I said at the beginning of the video, this is much quicker than spending time farming, and I'm a mum, and time is precious. I also buy Titanite shards to upgrade the scythe to +5. I upgrade a few of my stats to get me to a level where I can hopefully start dealing some damage and landing a few one-shots. One thing to mention, because I'm weird, when I level up, I must have either a 0 or a 5 at the end of the number, because otherwise it's gonna bother me. Back down to Valley of Drakes, where I test my scythe on one of the blue drakes and take him down quite easily. If going to the catacombs early wasn't enough, I now have to head into Blight Town. I take down these stinky enemies, and the proof they stink is that they always drop down pies. The reason we came to Blight Town is because we need to get the pyromancy power within, which is behind this giant... worm? Slug? What is this thing? Power Within gives you a 40% boost to your damage for 100 seconds, while also draining your health at a rate of 1% per second. I then take the express route out of Blight Town, so yeah, this was done totally on purpose. Let's see what our damage looks like with the Great Scythe at +5, Red Tearstone Ring and Power Within. I choose to go try the Bear Gargoyles, and I try a two-handed heavy attack against the first one, and nope. Not enough damage, not even close. So let's try the Taurus demon instead. One good thing with the Taurus demon is that you can do a plunge attack on him from up here. Plunge attacks are normally the most damaging attacks you can do, but after the gargoyles I was still a little worried it wouldn't be enough. So I also used gold pine resin to give me an extra boost. The Taurus demon has 1215 health, and I think the gold pine resin was unnecessary, as we did just under 2000 damage with our attack. But hey, the first one shot is complete. Next up, we run through Undead Berg to grab the basement key, which lets us get to the lower berg where, using the residence key we bought earlier, we can free Griggs, who moving forward I shall call Greggs because I'm quite partial to a good sausage roll and a bake. Why did I free Greggs? He'll come in handy later. But before that, we clear out the other enemies of the lower berg before attempting the Capra demon. I said it before, and I'll say it again, f*** Capra demon. The strategy here is quite similar to the Taurus demon. Take out the additional minions, i.e. the stupid dogs. Don't get me wrong, I love dogs, but these ones are just nasty and I have no love for them. I would if they didn't just keep trying to bite me to death. I would then land a plunging attack with power within and the red tearstone ring active. But that's in a real world, because there's a whole heap of problems here, like actually killing the dogs, staying alive until you get Capra in the position you want him, and then there's this bullshit. Do you see that? Watch again. Capra can actually take full damage if he makes it all the way up here and falls, meaning our attempt is invalid because I can't one-shot him from full health. Also, sometimes he can hit us with his jump attack up here, which kills us if we happen to be a low health. This took a lot of attempts, and honestly, it was largely due to the fall damage situation. But finally, I got an attempt where I took out the dogs with a single swing, avoided damage from his jump attack, and got just into red tearstone range as he was below me, allowing me to two-hand the scythe and land the plunging attack for the well-deserved one shot. This was pretty annoying. Hopefully it's not a sign of things to come. All together now. F*** Capra Demon! With Capra Demon dead, we now head into the depths where I use power within to help take out this dog and the butcher. Definitely what I intended to do and not because I pressed the wrong button. Anyway, we get the large Andre here, which we can give to Ember later, letting us upgrade weapons to +10. We also free Lorenzo, a pyromancy teacher who can upgrade our pyroflame. Back at Firelink, we speak to Greggs, who sell us the Bellowing Dragon Crest ring, boosting sorceries and pyromancies by 20%. We then speak to Lorenzo, who has now moved here, and upgrade our pyromancy flame to +15. Having a +15 pyromancy flame in turn causes Quelana to spawn down in Blighttown, who upgrades a +15 pyromancy flame to a +5 ascended pyromancy flame. I bought all of her pyromancies and then killed her to get early access to Fire Tempest, the strongest of the Fire Pillar type pyromancies in the game. I was also keen to upgrade my scythe some more though, so I spent some time farming these nasty little slugs for large titanite shards. After getting an unwanted hug from Dizolo, I now decided to make a quick trip back to the asylum. The main reason for this was to trade moss for some twinkling titanite, and to test out Fire Tempest against the Stray Demon. With the Bellowing Dragon Crest ring, plus the usual red tearstone ring and power within buffs, we unfortunately didn't do quite enough damage to take it out. Part of the problem is that Fire Tempest can hit 3 times, but getting the 3rd hit can be quite inconsistent. Remember that, it'll be important later. After another couple of tries, I figured best to come back later when we got a different pyromancy, which I think will work better. But to get to that, we need a better melee weapon. Ah yeah, that should do. The Black Knight Greatsword. Worth mentioning that I'm not normally a fan of big heavy weapons, and I tend not to steer away from my beloved scythes. But this makes me look pretty badass. You see, it's time to attempt Quelag. Quelag has a lot more health than most of the early game bosses, but she can actually be hit with a plunge attack if you jump off a sloped part of the arena. It's a bit tricky as you need to make sure you land right on top of her, so it's quite dependent on what position she decides to be in when you jump. But after a few more attempts, I was able to land a successful plunge right onto a human body and get this super satisfying one shot. I got this done in way less time than my husband did. I got to say that because it brings me so much satisfaction, so yeah, I have no regrets. We ring the first bell of our run and then entered the Chaos Covenant to get Great Chaos Fireball. Following that, we then offer 30 humanity to increase our rank in the Covenant and get our hands on Chaos Storm. And in case you've noticed the amount of humanities I have on the top left, this was my husband's idea, and he kept giggling like an idiot while looking at the screen. This pyromancy functions like Fire Tempest, except the pillars do less damage. This is, however, offset by leaving pools of lava on the ground, which continue to do damage. With these in our grasp, let's try the Stray Demon once again. I drop down, letting the fall damage bring my health into Red Tearstone range. I cast Chaos Storm, and the 2 hits from the pillars take off most of Stray's health before the lava pools on the ground hit 2 additional times to successfully one-shot this big boy and give us a Titanite slab. While here, I grab the Peculiar Door for Painted Ward access later. Well, time to try the gargoyles again. This time, I skillfully take a hit at the start to bring myself to Red Tearstone range, and then land a running attack with my Black Knight Greatsword to take out the first gargoyle. Judging by the damage here, I could tell that I didn't need the Red Tearstone ring active to kill the second one. So I healed up and then did another running attack to the second gargoyle to easily one-shot him just as he was about to spit fire. With that, the second bell is rung, and Sen's Fortress now opens up to us. We now go and give the large Andre to Ember at last. Always feels good. Well, time for the Moonlight Butterfly. I didn't really want to have to wait for this idiot to land, so I opted to just pop it right in the face with a Great Chaos Fireball, easily getting the job done. Now, for the most important part of the run. I pay a visit to my super duper cute mushroom friends, and this brought me so much joy that I did consider just dropping the run and moving in with them so we could live happily ever after. Wait a minute. What are you doing, little one? Can you not see the branch? Just because you keep walking into it, that doesn't mean that it'll disappear. Ah, there you go. What the f***? Again? Didn't you learn your lesson? Okay, I really don't want to, but I must carry on with the run and think of the glory. It's now time for Sif. I first wait until my health is lowered a bit before beginning the fight. Chaos Storm was the best shout for this fight once again. Sif actually knocked me out of my cast with a back jump, but I was able to land it shortly after to easily get the one shot. Although it was one of the only ones I didn't feel good about. But at least having one-shotted her means she didn't suffer? We now give the Divine Andre to Ember, as it might be useful for later. Next, we head into Sen's Fortress to free Big Hat Logan before making it past the Swinging Blades with no issues whatsoever. We eventually make it to the bonfire, 10 points to Gryffindor. Iron Golem was very straightforward given he's weak to fire. The usual strategy of Chaos Storm with Power Within and Red Tearstone gets the job done. We now get grabbed by these imps and taken up to Anor Londo, but then we head back right away? What? I realised there were a couple of key preparations for what I wanted to do for the upcoming bosses that I still hadn't done. First, I trade with the crow for some demon titanite, and then I go back to Andre and buy 1000 pikes. You can probably guess where this is going. Using the item dupe glitch, we get ourselves 99 dragon scales. In truth, I wanted to follow in the footsteps of my countryman Plato Peak, but I didn't fancy spending days farming the blue drakes. We head down the Great Hollow and, oh my god, the cute mushrooms are following me! They love me just as much as I love them! I can't take any more of this cuteness. After a long run through Ash Lake, I make it to the Everlasting Dragon and join the Dragon Covenant. I offer 80 dragon scales to get max rank in the Covenant, rewarding us with the Drago Torso Stone. I also cut off the Dragon's tail for the Dragon's Greatsword, a mega powerful weapon for later. I actually didn't rest at any bonfires on this mission, so a homeward born takes me right back to Anor Londo, where I upgrade the Dragon Greatsword to +5. With that out of the way, it's time to make it through the joyous Anor Londo rafters. I smash Ian the Painting Guard in the face with my sword, after which his body flops off to the ground below. I was going to do the same for this other Ian, but he decided to just jump off all by himself. Bye Ian! We activate the rotating lift shortcut and then head to the painting world, ignoring all these Ians on the way. I actually went through this god-awful underground route with the bone wheels because we needed to kill this enemy here who drops the Pyromancy Fire Surge, which again we'll need for later. For Priscilla, I wanted to one-shot her with the Dragon Greatsword. As well as the usual buffs of Power Within and the Red Tearstone Ring, we also used the Dragon Torso Stone to become a dragon. Using the stone again does a row which gives us a 35% damage boost to melee attacks for about 6 seconds. Landing the heavy attack with this sword should do the trick, but actually landing it on an invisible Priscilla is not easy. This actually took quite a few attempts, but I was determined. After finding her footprints, I moved to the other side of the arena, and once I could see she was moving towards me, I activated Marrow with the Dragon Torso Stone and ran at her, landing the R2 for the one shot. We jump off the edge to do some dragon-style skydiving to get back to Anor Londo. I then managed to convince this Silver Knight to jump off the edge and make our way to the super friendly giant blacksmith to change the Great Scythe into the Life Hunt Scythe using the solo Priscilla and then level it up to +5. So now it's time for one of the bigger challenges of the run, Ornstein and Smough. I was really determined to get at least one kill with the Life Hunt Scythe. I found going in and waiting for my health to drain from Power Within was not a good idea, as avoiding both their attacks becomes tricky. After testing all my buffs on the Scythe against Smough, I determined that the damage was simply not enough to one-shot him in phase 1. For phase 1 Ornstein, the damage thankfully was enough, but landing these on him and not dying to Smough instantly was quite challenging. Managing to do that, I wanted to see if I could one-shot Smough with the Dragon Greatsword, but saying that I don't like his charge attack very much would be an understatement. Sometimes I did get an opportunity, but somehow the attack completely whiffed even though I'm locked on. After finally managing to land it, it was not enough. I wanted to test again, just to make sure I definitely didn't miss, but I got killed by nothing? Seriously, what the hell killed me here? Can someone explain to me what happened there? So I finally landed it again and yeah, the Dragon Greatsword can't one-shot Smough in phase 2. Unless I somehow hit him as he jumps backwards, but yeah, I am not trying that. For phase 1 with Ornstein, I was kinda relying on RNG, because I needed him to charge at me instantly so he was away from Smough, thus allowing me to dodge, use the Torso Stone and then land the heavy attack with the Scythe for the one shot. For Smough in phase 2, I decided to switch to Trust Chaos Storm, but getting the cast off for this leaves you wide open. Even if you do cast it, Smough can jump backwards out of the way, meaning we just narrowly miss the one shot. On one attempt, I did manage to do it, but I died from Power Within before I could heal. Even though this technically does count as a victory, I wasn't happy with this, so I reloaded the save and tried a few more times. On the actual winning attempt, Ornstein did the charge, I dodged, roared and slashed, easily ending phase 1. For Smough in phase 2, I got the best possible RNG as I ran at him. He jumped over my head and I casted Chaos Storm immediately. The fire pillars weren't enough to take him out by themselves, but the pools of lava on the floor were enough to finish him off as he went to swing at me. This time, I healed and survived the fight, managing to overcome one of the biggest challenges of the run so far. With this win, we also get the Lord Vessel, letting us swap between bonfires for easier movement around the world. It felt like a good time to kill the Hydra for DLC access later and some useful armor, so we slash off all the heads till it dies. We then speak to Dusk, then speak to Dusk again, before we can finally get the Crown of Dusk where the golem used to be. This boosts the power of magic by 20% while making us also take 20% more damage from magic. So let's go clear up some other bosses. First, we use Chaos Storm to take out the Gaping Dragon. We didn't even need a new helmet for this one. Next, we head to the Catacombs and use the Scythe to execute Pinwheel in a single heavy attack without even needing a Dragon Torso Stone buff. Of course, Pinwheel drops my mask, the Mask of the Mother, a clear sign that our run is on the right track. Patches then makes me very angry, but it does help us get the Skull Lantern, so I forgive him against my better judgment. I quickly warped out to place the Lord Vessel as I realised that we hadn't done this yet and we wouldn't be able to get to Nito otherwise. On the way to Nito, we take out Paladin Leroy, who drops the Sanctus Shield and the Grand, two very useful items. We used the Grant to take out the skeletons in Nito's boss room, quit out, and now we can face Nito with no interruptions. This was pretty straightforward otherwise. Just use power within, and then watch Nito slowly stumble towards you, and then watch as he totally misses his wing and Chaos Storm burns him to the ground. Gwyndolin also suffers a similar fate. I didn't even need the red tear stone buff for Chaos Storm to take him out. We head back to Anor Londo, where the Firekeeper is a bit pissed off that I killed Gwyndolin, so I give her a one shot with the scythe for good measure. Our next stop is the Duke's Archives. We cook ourselves some nice roast boar on the way, and of course make sure to take out the blue crystal golem here for the broken pendant, giving us access to the DLC. We take the stupid forced death from the first Sith fight, and then free these tentacled cuties from their prison. We come back here after getting the key from later in the archives to make some sliced calamari and free our good buddy Big Hat Logan. This means he moves to this area of the archives where we buy up all of his stock of spells. This is important for later. Now for Sith the Scaleless. I decided to try a one-shot that I haven't seen anyone do before, using the Pyromancy, now famous for taking out the Four Kings, Fire Surge. I rolled into Sith's crystal to smash it, made sure all my buffs were applied as I reached him and promptly deleted his health bar in about 3 seconds while holding the button to fire. Easy! Upon returning to the archives, we speak to Logan again, who seems to be losing his mind a bit sadly. We find him in Sith's original boss room, running around in nothing but his hat and his underwear. Okay, this is not uncomfortable at all. Sadly, we have to take him out here because we need the tin crystallization catalyst he drops. This boosts all sorceries while halving the amount of casts, but more on that later. It's time for us to enter the DLC. Manus woman-handles me and drags me into the past. First up, it's time for a fan favourite boss, Ian the Sanctuary Guard. I decided to use Chaos Storm for Ian, and what actually happened here was pretty wild. I went to cast after dodging one of Ian's attacks, but he jumped backwards. I thought I'd miss my chance, but he charged at me, somehow didn't hit me, landed on top of me, and then died from the lava pools as I healed up, necking way more S's that I needed because I panicked not being able to see where I was. That was a weird fight, but hey, win's a win, right? After cutting some grass in the woods, we end up outside the boss room of my next target, Artorius, the Abyss Walker. This is another job for Chaos Storm, and it all comes down to what attack Artorius does when the fight starts. Once Power Within got me into Red Tear Stone range, I went in and thankfully he did exactly what I wanted as I cast, the charging horizontal swing, which I easily duck under and watch as Chaos Storm burns his health down in seconds. After his defeat, I also take out Kieran because this is my favourite armor set in the game and fashion is key. I make my way down into Ulasil Township, taking out the bloated head enemies as I go. Down on this little balcony, we take out a mimic who drops the crest key. This next little section, I remember being awful the last time I played, with these 2 spellcasters on the stairs, but somehow I got past them first try here. I guess I've grown since I played this game for the first time. Down in the Abyss, we can grab our next treasure, Dark Bead. This will be really useful later, but for now, we speak to our good friend Goff, to help us with a little dragon problem we're having. In the best cutscene of the game, he shoots down Calamite so we can attempt a one-shot. This turned out to be more difficult than I was expecting. I tried with Chaos Storm initially, but I just couldn't seem to get the damage I needed. I tried multiple times from different positions and angles. One time I even cast it right under him and he took minimal damage. How's that even possible? So I switched to Fire Tempest. This does more damage, but doesn't leave the lava pools on the ground. Fire Tempest can hit up to 3 times, and I do need all 3 hits to be able to pull off the one shot. My winning strategy was to cast Power Within when I entered the Fog Gate. I was already at half health at this point. I then slid down the ladder and ran to Calamite, getting under him and casting. Thankfully, he did not jump back and just turn around on the spot as Fire Tempest hit all 3 times to finally earn me the one shot. Now, having seen my husband attempt the one-shot contest last year, I already knew Manus was going to be awful, so I decided to clear up any other business before diving into that hell. So let's sort out Sizzler's discharge. We can finally use Dark Bead and the Tin Crystallization Catalyst. We lure Sizzler back to the entrance after stealing his sister's clothes, wait until we get to Red Tearstone range, and then blast him with Dark Bead so every part of it hits, and shortly after he is deceased. I ran down to the demon ruins, making sure to one-shot the Capra demons on the way. I even managed to take out 2 of them at once. F*** all these Capra demons. For Demon Fire Sage, we're back to Chaos Storm as this thing has huge health. It's a simple matter of dodging his first attack and casting. He chose to fly up here, which was just what I needed to be able to get away after he sat back down in the lava pools and burned to death. The Centipede Demon is of course immune to fire damage, so Chaos Storm won't work here, but luckily we have Dark Bead. After making my way over to the island in the corner of the room, I waited for him to get close. Obviously got hit by his attack on purpose to get me into Red Tearstone range, and then blasted him with Dark Bead right in the face to score the one-shot. I then punched Blade of Chaos right in the face for the one-shot, which meant that it was time. Yep, time for this. But I mean, maybe I'll get lucky and it won't take me as long as the guys in the one-shot contest? Maybe it won't be so bad? Nope, it's just as bad. Maybe worse. In case you don't know the deal, we need to use Fire Tempest and get all 3 hits from it to get the one shot. But most attempts, he either jumps back, or he hits you before you get the chance to cast it. Or sometimes, you're right underneath him, but he still doesn't hit 3 times for some reason. But of course, it hitting him all 3 times isn't enough. We also need one of the pillars to hit him while he's in midair to get an extra boost from instability damage. This was probably the most painful thing I've ever done in any video game. I think I should take the time here to clear up a misconception. If you hit Manus with all 3 pillars but he doesn't jump, you get 6033 damage, which obviously isn't enough to kill him as he has 6665 health. And by now, you'll probably know all about the infamous 6033. Well, I was under the impression that you see that number a lot while attempting this, but let me tell you, that is definitely not the case. Most of the time, you get 4022, or maybe 4827, meaning that he jumped for one of the hits, but all 3 hits didn't connect. A lot of these were just deaths where I didn't even come close. It was a lot of pain. Until finally, I got to 6033. Okay, I shouldn't say this because it's weird, but I actually got excited when I got my first 6033. Over the many hours it took, I was so delirious that I said many things to my husband. Things like, "This is more painful than childbirth. I'd actually rather give birth 10 more times than keep doing this. And I'm going to start practicing church again so I can pray for a miracle." On one attempt, I actually landed 2 instability hits, scoring me the very elusive 5632. I was so deep into this that I didn't even know what was real anymore. I started to forget what life was even about. I started thinking that maybe it just wasn't going to happen. All those other challenge runners had managed it, but after all, it was all down to luck. What if that luck never came? I tried a number of different things, like luring him into the boundary of the arena, thinking this might stop him jumping out of reach of the flame pillars, but honestly, I've got no idea if any of these made a difference. I was stuck. I really didn't want to keep putting myself through this hell, but also I couldn't bear the thought of putting out a video without having done this one shot. I somehow kept going, my attempts getting pretty sloppy. Even the rare 6033s I landed no longer made me feel anything. More and more, the thought that this wasn't just going to happen for me kept creeping in. Every attempt just pushing me a bit closer to the edge. Initially, I desperately wanted to believe there was something I could do to increase my chances of success, but it became more and more clear that there is nothing you can do that makes this easier. It's just pure lottery. I remember turning to my husband one morning and saying, I just don't think I'm going to do it. I've never felt like that about anything in these games before, but after 11 hours of attempts, I was worn down and tired. But then, I did it! Not only did I do it, but I actually survived, dodging his jump attack at the last second somehow. I sat in disbelief for several minutes. I managed to one-shot Manus and survived, something probably only a small number of people on the planet had ever managed to do. Of course, as a tribute to all those challenge runners in the one-shot challenge, I had to kill Dusk. It was only fair. But of course, the run actually isn't over yet, as much as I wanted it to be. Down in New Londo, we get the key to the seal from Ingwood. This lets us drain the water to access the lower areas of New Londo and of course, the Four Kings. First though, I went to grab Aver's armor as we're gonna need it. So, for this strategy, I'd like to credit Challenger Andy, Gamers Weekend and Meaty Jesus, who all discovered these in May of last year during the Backlogs One Shot Contest. First, we let ourselves die when the second king spawns, so we have a bloodstain there to mark it. Then, we load the first king over there, and when the second one spawns, we start blasting Fire Surge, moving the flame quickly onto the second king when the first king dies. The first time I did this, I unfortunately moved over too quickly to the second king and didn't quite get the damage in to completely empty their health bar. I think part of the problem was my bloodstain wasn't in exactly the right place, so I died to the second king again to hopefully correct this. After a few more attempts, I was able to pull off the Fire Surge at exactly the right time to kill the first king and transfer the Fire Surge onto the second king quick enough to kill him. But there was a problem. I died to Power Within after the death cutscene finished. With every other boss, even Manus, I had managed to survive, and I wasn't satisfied with this being the only boss I traded with. So I reloaded the save and tried again. It took a few more attempts, but finally I was able to repeat the one shot, and this time I had enough health left to quickly hit right after, keeping my survival streak alive. So, that only leaves one boss remaining. After taking a quick trip with Fram to the Lord Vessel, I dropped the Lord Souls in and opened the door to our final challenge, Gwyn. Would he give me as much trouble as the previous two bosses did? The answer is no. I deleted him in seconds with a dark bead to the face. That was a little anticlimactic. As is customary, I now one-shot myself with the first flame. I did it! I was able to one-shot every boss in Dark Souls 1. Strangely, I did actually enjoy a lot of this, apart from Manus. That was probably the worst thing I've ever put myself through in these games, and I would never ever do that again. But I'm still proud of what I've achieved. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, why not consider liking and subscribing? Also drop me a comment. I like to try and reply to every single one of them. I've been Babza Jr. Thanks for watching and ciao for now.